Hey everyone, welcome back for another What's for Dinner video. This video just kind of covers all of the meals that I made for my family the past week. This starts off on Sunday, and we had decided to do a crab boil. Usually I do it your traditional boil style, but I decided to try something different this weekend, and it actually worked out really, really well. So I have some jalapeno cheddar sausage there. There's just what I had in my freezer. I'm trying to use up some of the stuff from my deep freeze. And I went ahead and sliced them into about 1-inch thick rounds. I also peeled some potatoes and sliced them into discs that are roughly about the same thickness as the sausage. And I'm pouring a little bit of olive oil on those potatoes. And I'm going to toss them up with some seasoning. I've got this blackened seasoning, and then I have some of this Tony's Creole seasoning. This stuff is so, so good. Those are the only two things I'm going to put on there. I did put quite a bit of the blackening season, probably about half a tablespoon, and I probably did about half a teaspoon of, maybe a little more of the Tony's because it is pretty salty. I'm just going to mix it really, really well and make sure all of the potatoes are evenly coated. And then I'm going to lay them very flat on my cookie sheet. I'm making sure that they are flattest side down and that they are evenly spaced out so that they'll bake beautifully. I am going to place them in a 400-degree oven, and I'm going to cook them for a while. So they're going to go for about 25 minutes before I do anything else with them. And here they are after about 25 minutes. They're cooking beautifully. I did pull them out, and I'm going to go ahead and flip each one of these potatoes over. And that way both sides get to cook against the metal. It helps get them a little crispy all the way around. And while they are out of the oven, I'm going to also go ahead and take this opportunity to put a little bit of corn on the sheet pan. Now my corn is frozen solid, so it is going to take a little while to cook. So I wanted to give it a pretty good amount of time. In total, it'll get about 30 minutes in my oven. I am going to sprinkle some of that Tony's Creole seasoning on there, just on each little individual ear. And I'll pop all of that back in my 400-degree oven. I'll pull it back out in about 15 minutes to add some more stuff. Here I've got a stick of butter that I'm melting, and I'm tossing in about, I don't know, a teaspoon and a half of garlic and about 2 teaspoons of Frank's Red Hot sauce, and I'm mixing it together. This is going to be the dipping butter for our crab. And as you can see, I do have a pot of boiling water going back there in the background. That is for the crab. I put a little bit of garlic in there and some Zatarain's crab boil seasoning, and that's it. I just let it come up to a boil. Here, I've pulled everything back out so I can rotate the corn. It's been about 15 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and toss in all of the sausage, and I'm going to let that cook for about 5 or 10 more minutes and let it start to get nice and brown and kind of get some of the juices released out of it and everything, so everything can mix together. It tastes delicious that way. My pot has come to a rolling boil, so I'm going to take my crab and put it in there. I had 6 snow crab clusters, and that's perfect because it is just myself, my husband, and my oldest that are going to eat the crab, so that is a great amount. But I'm going to boil it in here for about, 10 to 15 minutes. The crab was still a little frozen. I had tried to thaw it out, but it didn't quite get thawed all the way. So I'll put it in here and just let it boil for a little bit. I did cook the sausages for about 10 minutes, and now I'm tossing my shrimp on the sheet pan. I did not season these shrimp because they were already seasoned. I bought them pre-seasoned at the grocery store. They were Hatch chili seasoned shrimp. They're really tasty. If I were to do this with just plain shrimp, I would coat them in some sort of seasoning. Just for this particular time because they were pre-seasoned. I did not do that. They're going to bake in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. They were still, a couple of them were still just a little bit frozen too, so I wanted to let them go just a little bit long. I did pour the butter into individual dipping cups for each of us, and there is our crab. It's perfectly cooked and seasoned. It is so, so good. We absolutely love, love, love eating crab. And here is all the ingredients, the rest of the ingredients for the boil. I baked it in the oven. This turned out so fantastic. My family has requested it again. I will be making just this part of it again this coming week because it was so, so, so good. I hope you guys will try this recipe at home too. All right, on Monday night, we did have this lemon butter cod. I've made this one other time, and it was such a winner. My family loved this dish. Usually we're salmon people, but this cod, just wow. So I'm going to start off by making a seasoned breading. So I have a cup and a half of flour, a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a teaspoon of smoked paprika. And I'm going to put a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper in here. I probably did like half a teaspoon of each. You know, it is just like the coating that's on the outside of the fish, so you do want to be just a little bit heavy with it. But I mixed that all together, and then I melted 3 tablespoons of butter in the microwave, and I'm mixing in about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And to that, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. This is going to be like the egg mixture if you were going to batter and fry something. This is our liquid mixture. So I pulled my cod out, and I'm going to just slice this up into 3 equal portions. My youngest kids don't like fish, and that's okay. So I'm only cooking 3 pieces. I'm going to roll it in the liquid first. I'm going to roll it around in the flour mixture, then back to the liquid and back to the flour. And then I set mine off to the side so it has about 10 minutes to rest, and that kind of helps the breading stay on a little bit better. Same thing if you're making like fried chicken. You know, you just want to give it a little time to rest with that coating on there. 10 minutes isn't quite long enough. You probably want to go a little bit longer, but I mean, it got the job done. So it worked on this particular night. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just let these guys rest for a minute. Off to the side, I do have a pan with a little bit of olive oil in it. Not a lot, you know, 3, maybe 4 tablespoons of olive oil. And I had it heating up the whole time. And I just placed my pieces of cod in there. And we're going to let them cook for about 5 minutes on each side. And that'll make them nice and golden and crispy. We're not looking to cook them all the way through, just to get that outside crispy and golden and delicious. Now that the outside is nice and cooked, I'm going to put this cod in a baking dish, and off to the side, I had mixed together some more of what you saw earlier, the liquid for our fry mix. It's just 3 tablespoons of butter, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, but to that I also added a teaspoon of garlic powder and a tablespoon of dried parsley, and I poured that over the top of that fried cod, and it goes into a 400-degree oven for 10 minutes. Then while that was baking, I did hop over to my Ninja Foodi, which also doubles as a pressure cooker. And I mixed a cup of rice, a cup and a half of water, 2 tablespoons of butter. I put about a teaspoon of the blend mix, which is salt, pepper, and garlic powder, and a tablespoon of chicken base, and made some rice to go on the side. And then I had some roasted cauliflower, and that was our dinner for Tuesday. It was so amazing. And then we followed it up Wednesday with some roast chicken. I've actually shown this before on my channel, and I will link that video down below. This is the same thing that I did in the previous video, but I did use a different seasoning this time. I'm just taking my leg quarters. They are super cheap and really like a cost-effective way if you want to roast some chicken. It's way less expensive than buying a whole chicken, and it's super, super tasty. I like to just go ahead and dry mine off pretty well. And then I seasoned this on this particular night with the Buttery Steakhouse by Kinder's and the blend, which is salt, pepper, and garlic powder. And I really like the combo better than just one single seasoning. So I did season both sides of my chicken, and then I put a little bit down underneath the skin on top of each piece of chicken. Then I'm going to go ahead and place a pat of butter underneath the skin, maybe 2 on each piece, and I'm going to pop that in a 400-degree oven and let it roast. I let it roast for a long time, probably about 45 minutes in total. But these are pretty good sized leg quarters. So it did take a while for it to reach the right internal temperature. I think it is 165 for chicken, and I was testing it. So like I said, 45 minutes on 400 degrees did work out pretty well for me on this particular night. Some nights the chicken's smaller and it doesn't take quite as long, but that was tonight. I did decide to serve this with some roasted Brussels sprouts. We really, really enjoy roasted vegetables in my house, and Brussels sprouts are definitely a favorite. I'm going to serve them roasted, but with a sauce on top that's kind of like a knockoff of a Longhorn Steakhouse seasoning that they use on their Brussels sprouts. So I went ahead and chopped mine up kind of small, and I'm going to place them on a cookie sheet with some oil and then pop them in the 400-degree oven for about 30 minutes while the chicken's cooking. They'll just cook with it, and while that is going on, I will go ahead and mix up some sauce for them on the stovetop too. So here's the sauce for the Brussels sprouts. I put about 3 tablespoons of butter in the bottom of my pan with just a tiny bit of olive oil so it didn't burn. I'm adding a tablespoon or so of minced garlic. That's probably like 2 or 3 cloves if you're using fresh. I let that cook for just about 30 or 40 seconds, and then I'm going to add in some honey. I'm going to do about 3 to 4 tablespoons. I do have a lot of Brussels sprouts. It was a Sam's Club size bag, and we did eat these for multiple meals. So I am kind of adding a little bit extra this time. I'm going to toss in a teaspoon of liquid smoke, and then I'm going to do about a tablespoon of this Longhorn Steakhouse grill seasoning. You can purchase this a lot of places. I happen to find this at Dollar Tree, though, so check there because it's only $1. Now, I did add 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I would recommend, if you are doubling the recipe like I did, just stick with the 1 tablespoon. 2 was just a little bit too much. I also tossed in a teaspoon of chipotle chili powder, and I'm going to let that just kind of simmer and cook on the stove for a few minutes. Once it all comes together, I'll go ahead and toss my roasted Brussels sprouts in there, and I'm going to cook them in this sauce for probably about 5 minutes. Just lets them soak up all that super delicious flavor and makes them really nice and tasty. They're going to turn that deep golden color. It just really makes them taste so, so nice. Here's our meal for Tuesday. Again, I'll link the video down below when I originally made the roast chicken, and I just served this with a little bit of stuffing on the side from box mix that I had in the pantry. On Wednesday, I did make some homemade meatloaf. This is definitely a family favorite, and I like it because the meal goes so far. So I started off with 2 pounds of ground beef, 1 egg, and that was a package of Lipton onion soup mix. If you can get the beefy onion, it's even better. I'm going to toss in about a teaspoon of garlic powder, and then you're going to salt and pepper to your particular taste. I did probably about half a teaspoon of each in here. And then I did about 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And I'm going to also add in about a 1/4 cup of ketchup and about a 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs. And you just mix this all together. And then I do not put mine in a meatloaf pan just because I don't own a meatloaf pan. I mix it together and make sure it kind of holds together by making a little meatball and testing the, the feeling of it. And then I just shape it myself in a glass baking dish and put it in a 350-degree oven. This particular night took a little bit longer. It took about 1 hour and 15 minutes because I had 2 pounds of ground beef. If you just do 1 pound, it's done in about 30 to 45 minutes. Now that the meatloaf has had a chance to cook all the way through, I like to go ahead and pull it out and top it with just plain ketchup. I don't make any kind of fancy sauce for the top of it. Nothing special, just plain ketchup, but I think that tastes really, really good. It goes great with the meatloaf. I do like to keep this meal pretty simple. I also serve it with meatloaf on the side. Sometimes we want to dip it in there as well, and that's fine too. I know for a lot of people, they're like, oh, meatloaf, really? But yeah, it's really cost effective. It goes a long way. It's hearty. It's filling. It's a good meal. It's hard to knock a classic. I served mine with some mashed potatoes that I made in my pressure cooker and some Southern style green beans. I will link the video down below that has my chicken and green bean recipe in it so that you can see how I made those. And then for Friday night, I decided to just keep it simple and make some kolaches. If you're not from Texas, you might not have heard of kolaches before. I don't know. But really, it's kind of just like a pig in a blanket. So for this, I am going to use this savory jalapeno sausage. It's really, really good, but it is a little bit spicy. You can use regular sausage if that's what you like. I'm going to go ahead and just divide this up into 6 equal pieces, and then I will slice each of those in half lengthwise. And essentially what I'm going to do is kind of use the sausage as the bread, so I can put a piece of cheese in the middle and it's like a little sandwich, and it holds together really well whenever I get ready to roll these up in dough. 2 of them will not have cheese because my oldest does not like cheese. So I'm going to leave the cheese out of 2 of them for him. I'll be able to keep those separate by topping them with something so I can see that they're different. But anyway, this meal, usually I will make the dough from scratch. To keep it simple on this particular night for this meal, I did go buy some pizza dough at the store. You can see the can back there, just regular Pillsbury pizza dough. And I'm going to unroll the can here in a minute and divide the dough up into 6 pieces. And then inside of each of those pieces, I'm just going to roll up our sausage and cheese mixture. It is really that simple. You just want to roll it up well and seal it so the cheese stays on the inside and it doesn't ooze out. I was really lucky with it on this particular night because only one of mine leaked a little bit of cheese. And you'll see that I do put everything but the bagel seasoning on 2 of those. That just lets me know which ones have no cheese on the inside. And here's the finished product, golden, brown, and delicious. We only had one that leaked cheese, so I was super happy. Anyway, guys, that is our meals for this past week. I hope you guys like this. Comment down below and let me know what you think, and I will see you guys really soon with another video. Bye.